What's it like to play the Nintendo Entertainment System? Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Alright people, another collection video at you. Now that the less popular games are done and over with, now we're on to the multiplayer games. And right off the bat, we're coming up with basically 5 of my favorite ones. When I was growing up, everyone had the Super Nintendo and the Genesis, so nobody really wanted to play the NES titles that I had, or ended up getting, so I didn't really have that many multiplayer games. It wasn't until much later that I got them, and I got my NES fixed, that I discovered these games, or rediscovered them, you could say, and now we even play them today, all the time. So alright guys, I hope you guys really enjoy this, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on some of these games. The first multiplayer NES game I have is Dr. Mario. Now, again, in my youth, everyone had Super Nintendo and a Genesis, so no one really had or was interested in the old console. So I didn't come by Dr. Mario till much later, till I got my NES fixed later in life, and everyone wanted to play Dr. Mario. So I have it, and this is a highly competitive game. It came out originally in 1990, and it's been ported to every Nintendo console since its inception. Now, it's your basic Tetris-esque falling blocks puzzles, but you only get 3 colors. You get your blue, red, and yellow. And you can only get rid of the blocks either in horizontal or vertical fashion. Now, unlike some other puzzle games, such as a Puyo Puyo game, your blocks, your 2 capsules essentially stick together until one of them's eliminated. So that brings out a different sort of strategy to playing the game. Now in single player here, the objective is to clear the level of all the viruses, your blue, yellow, and red viruses, and then you can move up. And as the game progresses, it slowly gets faster, more viruses need to be eliminated, etc., etc. It's a highly competitive multiplayer game. It leads to many different skill levels being shown. It's pretty crazy, actually. So another thing, when it comes to multiplayer, the objective is to get your opponent to fill up the blocks to the top, and that'll cause the game over. So the more combos and capsules and viruses you eliminate, especially in chain combos, such as getting more than one at once, will cause blocks to fall on the other side. I remember I had one friend come over, and she said, "I will destroy you at Dr. Mario." And I'm like, well, I'm not very good at him, but let's see what happens. And none of us could beat her. Nobody could beat her. She was amazing. So it's just those kind of skill levels in obscure puzzle games that really make the game special. The upbeat music is a fantastic factor of the game. You get you get 2 choices to the music, and it just leads to a lot of fun. I highly recommend Dr. Mario getting some sort of iteration. It's on every console. You can't go wrong with it. So next we have is Bubble Bobble by Taito, and it came out originally in 1988, and again, it's been ported to a number of systems. Even upon its release, it was made available on many, many systems, such as the Amiga, Game Gear, whatnot, later. So, you're actually encouraged to play this with 2 players. And again, going back to Dr. Mario, I had my NES when I was really small, and that was when the Super Nintendo and Genesis had come out, so nobody was interested in playing, so I had nothing but single-player games, mostly, growing up. So it wasn't until much later when I started wanting to play the multiplayer games, and man, did I find a gem in Bubble Bobble later. I mean, this is fantastic. It is a one-hit death system, in which is kind of hard, but luckily, the game is quite forgiving, and it gives you a password system, so depending on what level you end up getting to, you can use the passcode to get back to that system. And there's infinite continues, so it's also nice. The whole objective is to clear each level by blowing bubbles into the enemies, and then knocking them out with your spikes, popping the bubble, so to say. And if you take too long, the enemies turn a pink color and get super fast. So the whole objective is to beat it as quick as possible. And usually I notice the last enemy turns this angry color, and they're pretty difficult to try and beat. Now, one thing in later levels that I came to find out is levels actually have air patterns that the bubbles end up following. And then there are nuances to the game, such as getting power-ups. If you get bubbles that spell out extend, you immediately go to the next level. Enemies get harder and faster. You see a number of different ones. You can go up and down to the stage, sometimes left and right. I assume. I didn't really play that far. And if you turn off the system, then you use the passcode. Otherwise, you can just say continue. One interesting fact is this is actually one of the few or early games that actually has multiple endings. If you beat all 100 levels and the boss, one player, it hints to playing with a friend to get the real ending. So it's actually a game that it encourages you to beat with a friend. And I find that fascinating. I really want to go back to playing this game to completion, all 100 levels. I think it would be a total blast. The game can't be that long, since it's two of you just trying to think. So, yeah, there's E, so if you spell out extend, you get bonus and extra lives. So, yeah, I mean, Bubble Bobble's super fun. It's been... It marketed a bunch of spin-offs. It's fantastic. If you have an NES and you want to get into multiplayer gaming, this is a must-have title. I could not recommend this enough. Now, Ice Climber came out in 1985, so it's one of the earlier titles, and it's a reason why it's one of the few multiplayer games that I had at the beginning of my console collecting days. I don't know what it was about early NES games such as Kid Icarus and Ice Climber, but for some reason, you turn into an eggplant or something. But anyways, that's besides the point. The point is the controls are initially pretty tough because of how primitive the game is. And by primitive, I literally just mean old. There's only about 3 enemies, such as this like duck bird, little polar bear guy, or Eskimo. But you can play this 2-player, and it's essentially a co-op until you get to a super bonus stage. Now, each stage consists of 8 levels, and then there's a bonus stage at the top where you're collecting eggplants. Eventually to catch the condor at the top. After I think it's 8 stages, you get to the super bonus stage, in which if you play in co-op, that is a race to the top strictly for bonus points. There's about, I want to say, 30 levels to the game. So after you beat one super bonus stage, you select the next set of mountains to conquer. And once you go through 2 sets, so 16 levels, then it essentially restarts you at Mountain 1 again. So there is replay value in there for competition-wise and 2-player. For single-player-wise, not really sure. It's more fun with the 2, trying to beat your friend at the top, make him die, etc., etc. Now, if you take too long to beat a level, a massive polar bear comes out and starts shaking the entire arena, causing the level to move up, forcing you to either go quick or quickly fall to your death. I love this game, but again, nobody wanted to play multiplayer games on the NES, and essentially because the controls are initially hard to figure out, it's for less experienced NES players. They might find it way too frustrating to play. However, I believe this is a staple to the franchise, because you even see the Ice Climbers in Super Smash Bros. Games later on. The bonus stages are pretty hard. The levels get much harder with some of the jumps you have to make with these crazy controls. You basically can only go straight up. Momentum's hardly there. But hey, this is a fun game, and please go get it. It's not that expensive. In 1985 came out Balloon Fight, one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time, and I don't know how I didn't know about this as a kid, or how I didn't know about this until fairly recently. It wasn't until Balloon Fight was showcased at the Nintendo World Championships at E3 when they were bringing that back. I was like, oh my god, how do I not know about this game? I just had to have it instantly. It looked amazing, and it does not disappoint. In the mode you see right in front of you is the possible two-player mode, and the whole objective is you're this little dude with 2 balloons, and you're just trying to pop other players' balloons. It's so much fun. You can either do co-op, or you can do a competitive score. It leads to, trying to screw your friends over, etc. Little bubbles give you bonus points. It's so much fun. And eventually, after a couple stages, there becomes a bonus stage, as you see here, in which you just balloons come out of the little pipes, and you just pop them. It's so much fun. Even this leads to like heavy competition of you just trying to clear them all, or co-op trying to clear them all. There is no disappointing part to this game. There's even a really fun single-player part of the game called Balloon Trip. Now, I initially thought you're floating through space and there are stars and you're trying to avoid them, but it's actually like lightning sparks that you're trying to avoid, and you only get one life. So once you pop one balloon, they actually both go, and you're dead. It's actually quite difficult. Unlike in the 2-player mode where you're allowed 2 hits, and your flotation slowly starts getting slower once you lose a single balloon. If you tap A button repeatedly, it actually goes quick. If you hold down the B, you'll see the little dude flap his arms. If you hang out in the water too long, a piranha will actually come up and eat you. If you take too long on a stage, lightning will strike and kill you. So it's actually quite a, I still wouldn't say deep game, but there are so many different aspects to it, and for some reason this balloon travel level is quite addicting. You slowly start getting better and farther, and when you reach an end to an area, the lightning sparks kind of make what I see as like a little constellation of sorts. But man, it's one of those early unforgiving NES titles that has a crazy amount of difficulty to it, but a large amount of replay value, and the multiplayer is super fun. I would put it even over Dr. Mario. So the last title here, it needs no introduction. It's Super Mario Bros. 3. It's arguably one of the greatest games of all time, and arguably one of the greatest 2-player games of all time. The traversing of the map in the world is outstanding. A good competition in friends and who can beat the most levels, who can beat it the quickest. The possibilities are endless. And don't even get me started on the secrets, but let's get started on the secrets. I don't know, I don't quite remember how anyone figured this out, but these white blocks, if you just crouch for 5 seconds, you can go behind them and unlock different areas in the stage. You can, the power-up systems are pretty insane, and by that I mean you get things such as the Tanuki suit, in which that enables you to fly. You got your mushroom and fire flower power-up as well. That's nothing new. But the whole thing about this game is it's a relentless platformer, and it's a staple to Nintendo. I mean, you still see Mario today. Mario 3 is still emulated, and the game design's nuts. Now, I've never been excellent at the Mario games, but I feel like they make these games a possibility for anyone to just pick up and play. And it wasn't until Mario 3 that even the common gamer really wanted to play. I mean, I had the original Mario Brothers when I was small, and I could never get past that game very far until someone told me about the warp pipes. There are, I mean, we can, you know what, let's continue about the secrets, because the word on the playground was, oh man, did you find this in Mario 3? Now, most of my friends had the Super Nintendo, and so their only exposure was playing this on the Super Mario All-Stars cart. So this is the original NES one, so there was no save feature. So it was one-hit go. So finding things such as the warp flutes were imperative for me. And to this day, I can't remember how I figured this out, but I think one of my friend's dads was actually playing the All-Stars one, and he's like, oh, you just go here and here on these 2 levels, and you can get the warp flute, and those will get you to those stages instead of having to replay the entire game over and over again, because that save feature just wasn't in the NES. Your story focuses on, of course, Mario rescuing Peach, who's Princess Toadstool, and each little area map that you see here always involves beating the castle, and eventually there are some ship stages that you come across, and those are probably, in my opinion, the most fun levels of the game, and your whole objective is, of course, to beat them all, and those later levels are super hard and unforgiving. The jumping is so much better than any of the previous Mario games, such as the very first one where the momentum jumping seemed to be slide off. In this one, it seems to be almost perfectly oriented. And getting into those more difficult levels and how everything sort of changes, even the gameplay steps it up a notch in having to figure out sort of puzzles for each level. Now, some of them are so cryptic that, you know, I could see why Nintendo Power had walkthroughs for these games. And, yeah, I mean, the game gets hard, it's great. Get Mario 3, now. So those are 5 of my favorite NES multiplayer titles. Now, I know the sports game also count as multiplayer, but these are true video game, Nintendo, old school, screw your friends, that kind of deal. I mean, even Balloon Fight that I didn't discover until recently is just one of those titles you have to have. Ice Climbers is super old, but still super fun. Mario 3's Mario, it's amazing. So, all these games that I've shown you guys are fantastic, and I encourage anyone who's a collector or still has a Nintendo, just go get these. They're not that expensive, and have fun. This is what Couch Co-op was all about. This is what Couch multiplayer versus mode is all about. These titles are special. I love them, and Bubble Bobble especially really stands out because of the multiple endings, and I actually hope to play that game with one of my friends to completion. So hopefully that'll happen down the line. Join me for another video next time, and who knows what's happening next.